This is the Worcester Police Department. This is an unlawful assembly.
We need their names and
Order you
badges.
disperse right now or you're subject to
We
arrest.
need their names and badges.
This is the Worcester Police Department. This is an unlawful assembly. You're interfering with...
You're putting your hand on your wrist right now. You see that? Are you a human? Are you a human? Yeah. Get out of here. You are too.
Hey guys, wow. You hear the knock before you see the flashlights. It's not polite. It's not gentle. It's 2:13 a.m. and the shadows slicing through your living room window look like they've arrived with a purpose. You think it's a fire or maybe a medical emergency, but it's neither. You called for help because tonight your partner raised his hand again. Tonight you decided not to be silent. But when the officers come through your door, there's a second vehicle parked just behind the cruiser. No siren, no markings, just black steel, cold eyes, and one word on their vest: ICE. You probably won't survive this, not in the way you thought, not in the way you prepared for. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop your location and local time in the comments. I always read them, and let's go on the journey of today's story together. You're told to sit down, hands behind your back. No explanation, just the rhythm of boots across linoleum and the staccato click of cuffs. The man who bruised your ribs just hours ago stands off to the side, confused, maybe amused. She's undocumented, he mutters. That's all it takes. The badge on the left saves you. The badge on the right condemns you. This wasn't supposed to happen. Your kids sleep upstairs. You beg the dispatcher for help. You believed for one trembling moment that the country you now called home would protect you. Instead, ICE was waiting at the bottom of the stairs. Your children would wake up to an empty hallway and a half-finished bowl of cereal on the table. By dawn, they'll learn a new phrase: ICE took mommy. Back in 2019, the Houston Chronicle reported a case like this. An undocumented woman was arrested by ICE while seeking a protective order. The abuser watched it all unfold. In recent years, similar stories have surfaced from Los Angeles, Denver, and Atlanta. One constant: victims being punished for asking for help. You sit in the back of the cruiser, wrists digging into plastic restraints, head against the fogged window. The officer who answered your 911 call doesn't say a word. He doesn't have to. His job was to respond, to make an arrest, to log a report. But you wonder when, exactly, he made the call to ICE. Was it when he ran your name? When he saw no legal status attached to your ID? Or was it before he even arrived, flagged by the system because someone, maybe even your abuser, had reported you before? This is the hidden handshake between local law enforcement and immigration agents, a loophole large enough to drive a detention van through. In theory, police aren't supposed to enforce immigration law, but in practice, it's something else. According to ACLU reports, local jurisdictions in states like Texas, Florida, and North Carolina have quietly partnered with ICE through what's called the 287G program. It allows local police to act as de facto immigration agents, using routine traffic stops, arrest reports, and yes, even domestic violence calls as feeder lines for deportation pipelines. The Marshall Project tells us that dozens of undocumented victims have been arrested when showing up at courthouses to seek restraining orders or testify against their abusers. Once ICE knows where you'll be and when they don't need to raid your house, they just wait outside the courthouse. Their vans idle in the shade. Their agents drink coffee from plain white cups, and then one by one, they take you in. And no one, not the judge, not the lawyer, not even the police officer, intervenes. Meanwhile, ICE maintains that these operations are targeted, legal, and designed to remove threats. But when reporters at ProPublica examined hundreds of these arrests, they found something else. 76% of individuals arrested in so-called sensitive locations had no violent record, no criminal background at all. They weren't threats, they were survivors. Now think about that, how easily the roles flipped, from victim to suspect, from brave to betrayed, and it all began with one call. You meet Maria outside the Hidalgo County Courthouse. Not in person, of course. She's already gone. But her story lingers like perfume after someone leaves the room. She was 32, undocumented, and living in McAllen, Texas. Her husband had broken her collarbone again. This time, she decided she'd had enough. A neighbor drove her to the courthouse in the early morning light. She clutched a handwritten affidavit and a photo of her youngest daughter clinging to her bruised arm. She was scared, but she was ready. She never made it inside. A plainclothes ICE officer intercepted her at the entrance. Maria was placed in a white van and taken to the Port Isabel Detention Center. She hadn't seen her kids in 72 hours. The youngest had just turned 4. No judge read her affidavit. No restraining order was issued. And as for her abuser, he showed up at her apartment later that night, fuming. Maria was gone. No one stopped him from entering. The kids were with a neighbor, huddled in the back room. Her story, first reported by The Guardian, wasn't unique. In 2017, Denver made national headlines when 4 women dropped their domestic violence complaints after ICE was seen lurking in the hallway outside the courthouse. Maria's story, like theirs, unraveled the promise that a courtroom is a sanctuary. Maria had lived in Texas for 9 years. Her children were U.S. citizens. She worked nights cleaning office buildings and took English classes at the local library. When her husband grew violent, she tried therapy, then family counseling, then prayer. When none of it worked, she turned to the system built to protect her. It devoured her instead. And here's the twist. ICE later admitted it had received a tip about Maria's court appearance from local law enforcement. The same officers who advised her to file for protection passed her along like contraband. On a now-deleted Facebook post, a local activist wrote, "We told her to be brave. We didn't tell her she'd be punished for it." Maria's case remains unresolved. Her children were taken in by her sister. Her name doesn't show up in local court records anymore, just the ICE transfer log. You start to peel back the numbers, and it feels like lifting a rusted door, heavy, reluctant, and loud with protest. But once it creaks open, the data spills out like floodwater. Track Immigration, the respected research initiative out of Syracuse University, reports that over 1,250 immigrants were arrested by ICE at courthouses or immediately following legal proceedings in a single year, most without any criminal conviction. Among them, hundreds had shown up not as defendants, but as victims, witnesses, or petitioners for protection. These weren't raids of convenience, they were strategic. According to ProPublica, ICE agents are trained to monitor courthouse calendars, stalk hallway benches, and use public legal databases to identify undocumented immigrants scheduled to appear. And once ICE has your name, your address, and your court date, all they need is time. The courthouse is an easy ambush site. No Fourth Amendment protections, no warrants needed. Just a whisper, a glance, and a grab. The ACLU dug into this practice and found that nearly 85% of survivors of domestic violence in immigrant communities are now afraid to seek legal help. In Los Angeles, shelters reported a 60% drop in reports from undocumented victims the same year ICE courthouse arrests surged. Advocates say people are staying with their abusers because they fear what comes after escape more than the pain of staying. And then there are the legal backdoors ICE quietly strolls through. A document from ICE's own Law Enforcement Support Center revealed a procedure where agencies notify ICE during encounters with foreign nationals, even if those encounters aren't arrests. That includes routine traffic stops, police interviews, and 911 calls, like the one Maria made. Oddly enough, an ICE spokesperson once claimed on a live-streamed Q&A still archived by Wired that ICE prioritizes dangerous criminals, not victims. But when journalists asked for proof of this prioritization, ICE provided no data, none, not a single number. That's because the truth isn't numeric, it's systemic. These aren't isolated incidents, they're embedded tactics. The numbers tell you how many, but the silence around them tells you why. You stand in the courtroom of public conscience now. On one side, the law, etched in bureaucracy and loopholes. On the other, humanity, raw, bruised, and begging not to be punished for surviving. It's a difficult place to be, but you can't look away. Let's say ICE is just doing its job, their mandate to enforce immigration law, to locate, detain, and deport unauthorized individuals. From their point of view, the system is blind to context. Citizenship status trumps circumstance. Whether someone is a mother fleeing abuse or a laborer with a clean record, if they're undocumented, they're deportable. "We don't make the laws," said one ICE field officer during a 2022 interview with Reuters. "We follow them." A clean soundbite, but in the echo, you can hear the rattle of unintended consequences. But here's the counterweight: the ethic of protection. Should the law function in such a way that it deters victims from calling 911? Should our immigration system work against the very institutions, courts, police, hospitals, it claims to preserve? The United Nations Convention on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women urges member states to shield survivors regardless of legal status. The U.S. has signed but never ratified it, and so the limbo lingers. Even judges are divided. In 2018, a Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court ruling concluded that state officers have no authority to detain individuals solely for immigration purposes. Meanwhile, in Texas, officers continue cooperating with ICE under state directives. So what does justice look like when geography defines legality? And what of the abusers? Studies show that many perpetrators exploit their partner's undocumented status as a tool of control. They whisper ICE threats during arguments. They tell victims that seeking help equals deportation. In many cases, they're right. The threat becomes prophecy. In truth, the debate isn't just legal, it's moral. It asks, can you defend a system that obeys the letter of the law while crushing its spirit? And when law becomes fear, who gets to feel safe? The courtroom remains silent.
You guys are all disgraced to your
You
company!
see the impact first in the eyes of the children. The daughter who stops speaking in class after her mother is taken. The son who watches the door every night until sunrise, hoping she'll come home. These aren't statistics. These are slow-forming scars, hidden inside tiny, developing hearts, and they're everywhere. Maria's sister, Letitia, tells the Texas Tribune that the youngest child still calls out for her mother in her sleep. "She thinks she's at work," Letitia says, "but I don't know how long I can keep that up." The state doesn't provide psychological support for children left behind by ICE detentions. No therapist, no social worker, no funding. Just silence, broken by sobs at bedtime. Widen the lens. Across the U.S., more than 5 million children live with at least one undocumented parent. When ICE removes a caregiver, it's not just a deportation, it's a structural collapse. In New Jersey, a single 2021 raid led to 14 detentions. 7 of those individuals had school-aged children. The local school district scrambled to place them with extended family. One child was found walking to school alone, sobbing. Then there's the economic fallout. A report from the Migration Policy Institute found that families affected by ICE detentions experience a 70% drop in household income within 6 months. Women like Maria often held multiple jobs, cleaning offices, working kitchens, babysitting, each dollar essential. When they're taken, rent doesn't pause, food doesn't wait, and the fear ripples further. Domestic violence shelters report plummeting participation among undocumented women. Hotline calls go unanswered. Women stay with their abusers because leaving no longer leads to safety. It leads to ICE. A woman in a California shelter told reporters at KPCC that she deleted the number for 911 after a friend was detained trying to press charges. "It's not for us anymore," she said. Protection, it seems, has a citizenship clause. You stare at the mirror and ask the quiet question, how did we get here? How did a system built on liberty and justice begin turning away from those most in need of it? The American mythology of refuge, the Statue of Liberty, the tired, huddled masses, feels more like a memory now. In its place, bulletproof vests, detention quotas, and algorithmic tracking. You wonder if the people making these decisions have ever sat in a shelter at 3 a.m. holding the shaking hand of a woman who just escaped a beating. But this isn't about sentiment. It's about ethics, law, and the fragile line between protection and persecution. In a 2023 statement, ICE claimed its agents adhere to sensitive location guidelines, meaning enforcement actions should avoid courthouses, hospitals, and places of worship. But internal memos uncovered by The Intercept show dozens of documented arrests inside those very places, masked by technicalities, sidesteps, and redefined perimeters. A courthouse hallway is not a courtroom. The parking lot is not the church. The emergency room lobby is not the hospital. This legalistic parsing mirrors a deeper moral fracture. What does it mean to protect the law if it means betraying those it's meant to shelter? Does legality always equal justice? You remember the chilling story shared by The Guardian about a Guatemalan woman who escaped a trafficker and walked 19 miles to a sheriff's office in New Mexico. ICE was called within 10 minutes. She was detained before she could even file a report. No charges were ever brought against her trafficker. You begin to understand, fear isn't a side effect of enforcement, it's the method. The system doesn't just catch people, it teaches others not to run, not to speak, not to trust. And slowly, the reflection staring back at you in the mirror morphs, less like a nation of laws, more like a nation of exceptions, ones that carve out the vulnerable while cloaking the process in terms like public safety and operational necessity. This isn't just immigration policy, it's moral policy.
Hey,
And
what
it's
happened
cracking.
to you, bro? They shot you in the head? You alright?
You scroll through the comments, the news feeds, the legal blogs. The same stories appear, different names, same endings. Women arrested outside courthouses, men taken during probation check-ins, families torn apart because someone dared ask for help. But between the anger and sorrow, a different current begins to form, one of resolve. It starts with voices. A viral video filmed outside a Texas courthouse shows ICE agents detaining a woman minutes after she testified in a domestic violence hearing. The clip, posted by a court interpreter, garnered over 4 million views in a week. You see hashtags emerge. Sanctuary means safe. No ICE in courts. It's not just activists now. It's teachers, nurses, small-town judges. They're tired of watching justice be swallowed by silence. The ACLU launches a national campaign demanding ICE be barred from conducting enforcement actions in or around courthouses. States like California and New York respond, passing laws that require judicial warrants for ICE to make arrests at legal proceedings. Not perfect, not everywhere, but it's a start. And then there are the survivors who speak anyway. Maria's cousin, Leticia, organizes a vigil in McAllen. 27 women show up, some undocumented, some U.S. citizens. They hold candles, pass out flyers, and chant in Spanish. Tu voz importa. Your voice matters. The local paper barely covers it. But a teenage TikToker records the moment, adds captions, and it spreads. 300,000 views in 24 hours. Sometimes justice travels faster through pixels than paper. You realize that every share, every repost, every whisper, "Did you see this?" is an act of defiance. These stories aren't just statistics, they are alarms, and they need to be heard. So here's what you can do. Like this video. Share it with someone who still believes ICE doesn't raid courthouses. Post a comment below about your community, your courthouse, your neighborhood, your truth. And above all, never let fear define your silence. You may not stop the next raid, but your voice might make it the last one that goes unnoticed. And now, the noise begins to fade. You exhale slowly, the weight of the story settling into the folds of your awareness like dust on a forgotten window pane. There's no outrage left to burn tonight, only understanding, only memory. The hallway goes quiet again. The courtroom empties. The van disappears into a fog of procedure and paperwork. You begin to wonder how many Marias the world has lost. How many who didn't make the news, who didn't have a cousin to hold a vigil, who didn't have a child old enough to remember. You don't hear their names, but you feel their echoes at bus stops, in shelters, behind courthouse walls. The air tonight is different. Heavy, but not hopeless. You sit back, you reflect, you feel. Somewhere, someone is calling for help. Maybe they won't make the call, afraid of who might answer. Maybe they already did. But maybe, just maybe, because you listened, because you know now, the outcome will be different. That's the thing about stories. When told well, when shared, when heard, they don't end, they transform. You, listener, are part of that story now. Whisper it, amplify it, let the truth echo.